Today, we are excited to welcome Dennis Roberts. Dennis is a seasoned leader, problem solver, and public policy advocate with a deep understanding of how to unlock the potential of Cuyahoga County's communities through innovative real estate strategies. As the Chief Strategy Officer of Cuyahoga County Land Bank, he oversees key organizational initiatives that drive community growth, including new construction, strategic partnerships, external affairs, and neighborhood development projects like the Circle East District that we're going to discuss today. He plays a central role in shaping the land bank's long-term vision and expanding its impact across the region. Previously, Dennis served as Director of Real Estate Development, where he led a team that facilitated the renovation and disposition of more than 2,000 homes, generating more than $16 million in sales. Under his leadership, the Land Bank has also launched new construction initiatives, including the development of more than 35 newly built homes valued at over $10 million. He's a licensed attorney and real estate agent, and he brings a rare combination of legal insight, practical development experience, and policy fluency. We are excited to learn from him today. Please welcome Dennis.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right, Dennis, you should be all good to go.
Okay, great. Can we move to the next slide? So I'd like to start off with a question. Why does investment occur in some places but not others? It's a bit rhetorical. This is in part what we will explore today. Next slide. The reason that investment occurs in some markets and not others is because of the following, in my opinion: the market, the risk, the uncertainty, and the return. The way developers often will look at a project is the following: does the market, the risk, and the uncertainty justify the return? If there's too much uncertainty, often developers will walk away. The tricky part about this is distinguishing the difference between risk and uncertainty. I think most of us know what a good market is and a bad market is. A good market is high demand. A weaker market suggests lower demand in most cases, in broad strokes. But the question is, what is the difference between risk and uncertainty? Risk, the way you could think about it from a developer standpoint, is about measurement. You can measure risk. A good example is you go to a busy intersection. You need to cross the street. There's risk. The cars may not stop. The signals may not work. A car can come out of a driveway. There is risk when you cross the street. But if I take you to that same street and I put a blindfold around your eyes, you now have uncertainty. That's very, very different, and it's fundamentally the difference in why a developer may invest in one community as opposed to another. Uncertainty is bad. Next slide. As a result of this, one of the things that I've been working through for a number of years is a methodology that I call the INVEST framework. It's a disciplined approach to help prepare a community for investment. In broad strokes, it has the following elements. One of the first things we'll look at is infrastructure. The way one can look at infrastructure or think about it is it's the backbone of a city. If you were a developer, you're going to build something new or renovate something. Are there good streets, good water, good sewer, good utilities, good fiber optic internet? These are the things that are critical if one wants to invest. Vision and leadership. Is there support from the political leadership? Is there a strategic plan? Are you in alignment with that strategic plan? Those things are critical because you're going to need approvals and the support of the political infrastructure. Thirdly, execution capacity. Even if you have the vision in the leadership, can you get permits? Can you get permits timely? Will the zoning work in your favor? Can you get all necessary approvals in order to move forward? And can you do that in a timely way? If you cannot do that, again, it undermines your ability to have success. Fourth, site preparedness. Is the land that you need owned by you, or do you have an option on the land, or is it in otherwise friendly hands? Can you get it? Again, the more friction that is in place, the more difficult it is for an investor to move forward. And that's part of their calculus in determining whether they will invest in a given community. Now, I argue if you have those four basic elements, you're more likely to have the trust and confidence of a developer. And what that confidence, that trust and confidence really means is that you have transparent processes, you're consistent, and now a developer is more likely than not to decide to invest in a given community. Next slide. That brings me to what I want to talk to you about today, which is the Circle East project. And I wanted to put this project in the context of the INVEST framework so you could better understand how we arrived here and where we plan to go. So East Cleveland, I think many of you may be familiar with it. It's just east of University Circle. It starts on a street called Lakeview or Woodlawn in this particular case. And if you notice in the map, the land bank owns essentially everything that's colored, primarily in blue, but everything that's colored within the red boundary. It stretches from Forest Hill Avenue all the way to the railroad tracks on the north and on the eastern boundary on a street called Farmington. So one big box. It's about 30 acres, of which over 200 parcels are vacated. They're vacant. We obtain these parcels over a period of years, primarily through demolition activity. There's roughly 18 vacant commercial parcels on Euclid Avenue that could be suitable for commercial development. There's roughly 150 parcels that are not owned by the county land bank. That's what's indicated in white. So these are private citizens who happen to live there, and we're happy to have them. East Cleveland is super engaged, and they now have a brand new mayor and a brand new council who are extremely productive. Next slide. So our goal with this project, which we started in earnest about 3.5, 4 years ago, is when we really started to lock in on this project, is to do three basic things. We want to create a new neighborhood that was unique and inclusive and showcases what East Cleveland could be. Relative to housing, we're looking to create a mixed income, middle income neighborhood. Part of the reason we're seeking to create a mixed income neighborhood is because East Cleveland is currently the poorest city in Ohio. And when you're the poorest city in Ohio, it means that a lot of people don't make a high income. And if they don't make a lot of income, there's not a lot of income tax for the city, which means there's a lack of revenue. So our strategy was to try to support the people that are currently in East Cleveland and at the same time induce people with more money to move into the city. Thirdly, we want to create an expansive and a robust commercial corridor, i.e., help drag some of the economic activity that's in University Circle east into East Cleveland. Next slide. Some key facts about the area. To date, we've renovated something we call the Mickey's Building. That's what you see in white down there. It's against Euclid. It's on the corner of Euclid Avenue in Woodlawn. We spent about $3.5 million in the renovation, and we currently have the building on the market looking for a company that will buy the building from us, but equally as important, create new jobs for the residents that live there and residents that don't live there. Secondly, through working with our partners from the Northeast Ohio Sewer and the Water Department and the City of East Cleveland, we've installed a brand new road, new water, new sewer, new fiber optic cable, new electrical poles, and the like. To date, we've built 7 homes with our partner Greenlight Construction. They've built 2, we've built 5. 3 of those homes have been sold. I'll talk about that in more detail later on in the presentation. We've also installed what we call the Greenway. It's a linear park that stretches from Woodlawn through Wadena. That's the green strip that you see moving east and west. What that strip will allow one to do is to walk from Woodlawn all the way through without going to the end of the block. Our goal was to make the city more connected and more walkable. There's currently, in terms of home repair, we raised about 1.3 million. We've done home repair on 18 houses. Typically, that includes a new roof, new siding, new windows, and new porches, depending on what's needed. We provide that to owner-occupiers in this area to make it more likely than not that they won't inadvertently get pushed out because they are unable to pay to keep their house maintenance properly. Next slide. This is just a photograph of the Mickey's building because when you hear a person talk for 30 minutes, you get bored. So we have a little eye candy. But this is the facility after the renovation. It certainly did not look like that before we started, but you can see it's ambitious and it's quite attractive and fully outfitted and prepared for a job creator. Next slide. This is, as I mentioned before, we have 7 homes that have been built. 2 of the homes have been built by our partners, the Greenlight Building Company. This is one of the homes that is currently on sale. And you can see it's an attractive craftsman. Some of the interior pictures, you can see a little bit of the kitchen, the bedroom, and then the picture to the lower left-hand corner is the master bedroom. It's like a little patio deck where one could sit and enjoy. This house is priced at $399,000. However, because of the incentives that we have in place, essentially one can buy this house if one can afford to make a payment of $2,400 a month and $1,000 down. So let me pause there. $2,400 and $1,000 down. For those of you who are familiar with housing, you know typically the best deal in place is FHA, and FHA will give you a loan essentially up to 97%. So you would have to come up with the 3% plus closing. So think about that. 3% of 400,000 plus closing, which could run you $5,000 or $6,000. But not here in the Circle East District. You only have to pay $1,000, and that covers closing and your down payment. That's in part because we have a strong partnership with our banking partners, First National Bank, and they're contributing to your down payment, and that's why that payment is so low. Next slide, please. These are 2 homes that have been built by the Cuyahoga Land Bank. The homes are roughly 1,700 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The one on the right, 3 of them have been sold. The one on the left just hit the market within the last couple of weeks, and we hope to sell it soon. Next slide, please. This is the Greenway that I spoke about earlier. The Greenway has many amenities. One of the things you can see is a little gazebo. You see some exercise, some equipment for children. In the lower right-hand corner, you also see some exercise equipment. So part of our strategy is building out amenities that would justify someone spending $400,000 anywhere, but particularly East Cleveland. You know, we're a market-driven company in many respects at the Land Bank, although we have a public mission. But these are the types of things we had to do in order to induce not only our developer partners, but also induce buyers to consider living in the Circle East District. Next slide. Home repair, critical function. Now, we've engaged in home repair in the district for 2 basic reasons. One, as I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that the people who live in this community have invested for years are not inadvertently forced out because they can't afford to keep up their house. And secondly, we want to make sure that the homes in the district look as presentable as they possibly can. If you're buying a home, you're spending good money, you want your neighbor's house to look attractive. So in order for us to help the people in this community, we wrote 2 grants. One we received from the state of Ohio, and the other grant we got from the federal government. And we're using that money to combine actually a little bit more than 1.3. We're using that money to go house to house and provide people free grants up to roughly $17,000 per house. And these are just some examples, like all the way to the right, where it says 1916 Woodlawn, you see a brand new porch. On the other homes, you see a brand new roof, sometimes windows, sometimes siding. Whatever it is, the owner is willing to do within the context of the money that we have allotted on a per house basis. Next slide. Most recently, in the last 30 days, we applied to the Honda Foundation and were able to obtain a grant to install solar panels. So for many of those homes wherein we install new roofs for the people that live in the community, we went back and found additional money to give the people solar panels. And one of the reasons we did that is because there's an affordability issue, not only in East Cleveland, but throughout Cuyahoga County, I think, as everyone knows. Well, one of the cost factors is utilities. So we figured if we were able to get a grant and provide people solar panels, they would have reduced utility costs because we've experienced that. The land bank has put solar panels probably on about 7 of their homes. We've interacted with the buyers, and we know through our relationships with our partners, Yellow Light, they install the solar panels that it significantly reduces how much one would have to pay in terms of electricity. In addition to that, because we want to be socially conscious, all our houses are all electric. So again, you get the full benefit of those solar panels by buying a house in the Circle East District. We anticipate putting 5 new solar panel installations on 5 new homes for the owner occupiers that currently live in the district. Next slide, please. For those of you who are interested in sustainability, we've already received a 4-star rating by the National Green Building Standards. We have received that for a whole host of reasons, everything from permeable pavement to planting trees on the greenway. We planted over 30 trees, and just everything we've done to support sustainable activity, including not only do we have rooftop solar on the homes that are there now, but each of the homes have EV chargers if one wants to buy an electric car. In addition, we work with the county planning department who have written new laws that the city of Cleveland is likely to adopt to make their code more solar friendly and more sustainable in many respects. I'll give you an example. When the code was written back in early 1900s, there's no mention of solar panels, but we're having that built into the code. So when developers want to consider putting in solar panels, it makes it easier because they don't have to request a variance from the city. Next slide, please. These are the homes that are currently available. To the right, you see the blue home that we spoke about earlier. Up above, you see what we call the Elliott. What we expect coming soon, we plan to construct on the corner of Woodlawn and Euclid Avenue, 12 new townhomes. Those homes will be built by our partners, Cleveland Bricks. We're hoping that they break ground in the next 30 days. Next slide, please. So this is more than a dream. We have actual results. So as I mentioned before, we have sold 3 houses. So if any of you are considering, after this presentation, buying a house in the Circle East District, you're not alone. Many people have. In fact, one of the persons who bought a house is a prominent attorney, works at Key Bank. Another individual or individuals work at the Cleveland Clinic. So we're building a little community of diverse people, professionals, and we're just excited about what's to come in Circle East. Next slide, please. Projects of this side take funding, and they're extremely expensive. We estimate that this project will cost at least $120 million in the end. A breakdown of those costs at a very high level, $60 million to develop the homes. It costs roughly, depending on who you ask and what you're building, $300,000 to build a brand new home. So there's costs related to that. There's costs related to development of the commercial corridor. So we got early estimates on what it will cost to build, say, a mixed-use development up and down Euclid Avenue. There's significant costs related to the infrastructure. The estimates for the infrastructure is roughly $30 million to put brand new streets, brand new water, brand new sewer, and brand new electrical on all 4 streets: Woodlawn, Wadena, Brightwood, Penrose, and probably Forest Hill as well. Those costs will likely increase due to inflationary pressures. Now, to date, we've raised really well over 17 million, just at a high level, just so you get a good understanding. The land bank has a couple $1 million into the project that's spread over probably 10 years. A lot of that is in the form of demolition and some planning activity as well. East Cleveland has a roughly $4 million into this project, but we're also supported by Northeast Ohio Sewer, for example, and Cleveland Water. For example, on Woodlawn, we have a brand new road. We're now at least $5 million just on Woodlawn alone. This chart needs to be updated a little bit. We're happy that we received about $1.5 million from Jobs Ohio. The county in total has over $1 million, well, actually well over $1 million into the project as well. My point is, it's not really documenting the cost. It's just tell you that this is totally a public-private partnership, and it takes funding from a lot of different levels of government in order to be successful. And it has to be sequenced in a way to not only get the money in timely, but also continue to build confidence for your developer partners and the public. Next slide. And this brings me back to the invest framework. Now I'm going to remind you of some things that I talked about earlier. I talked first about infrastructure. Now you probably have a sense now why infrastructure is critical. If anyone's been to East Cleveland, you know they have tough roads, like in many parts of Cleveland, but not on Woodlawn. Woodlawn is now beautiful infrastructure. So again, infrastructure was critical in order to induce development actors to come in and want to invest their money. Vision and leadership. I mentioned to you early on that we now have a new mayor who's well respected around the community and a new council. Both of these entities, if you will, have been working collaboratively together. In fact, they've passed over 62 pieces of legislation since January. So East Cleveland, in many respects, is open for business. And I know from personal experience, it's quite easy to move through their permitting process because the mayor and the city council want to get development done in the city. It speaks to execution capacity. I talked a little bit about the zoning. The city is putting together what we call a zoning overlay. Essentially, they're modifying the rules to make it easier for investment and development to happen. That sends a signal to people who want to invest money in this community that your money is safe and that the city is working in alignment with your interests. Fourth, site preparedness. I talked about that. The land bank owns roughly 30 acres, over 200 parcels. So when a developer comes forward and they want to interact with the land bank, they don't have to go through a lot of bureaucratic layers. They can simply have a conversation with us. We give them the design guidelines. We talk about a development opportunity. We discuss a takedown strategy and timeline, and then we get right to work. But again, the critical part, we make it easy for the developer to get the property from us and move forward with what they're good at, and that's the development process. And I would argue if you have these four elements, it then creates trust and confidence from the developers, and that's critical. And it's one of the reasons, in my opinion, why some communities have investment and some communities don't have investment. Obviously, this has to be supported by a market that one thinks can respond in terms of giving the investor a return. But I would argue, even if you have a weak market or a broken market, like you had a couple of years ago in the Circle East District, that can change if one can satisfy these particular elements. Next slide. And finally, before I take questions, I'd like to invite everyone to come see it for yourself. We have office hours in the Circle East District, and what I would love to be able to do, and we have different opportunities for people to come see it, come experience it, and come ask additional questions. If you're interested in visiting, please put visit in the comment, and we're capturing that, and then we will send you via email some times that will be available just to come talk about it and learn about this project in more detail and see it for yourself. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Great, Dennis. Thank you so much. As this development has progressed, what have been the reactions from the residents and the neighbors in the surrounding community?
Most are very supportive. They understand what it takes in order for their city to recover. They want the equity. They want the development. They certainly want the infrastructure. They want new streets and they want city services. And they recognize the key to getting city services is the city has to have enough revenue. There is a loud minority who have expressed concerns, for example, about gentrification. But part of that is a misnomer because what they fail to understand, we don't have gentrification going on here. We're not forcing anybody out. We have enough land. In fact, we have too much land. We have over 200 parcels. So no one's being forced out. In fact, we're doing the opposite. We're helping people stay in by spending over $1.3 million in home repair. So in general, very supportive.
And what efforts might there be to monitor out-of-state investors from buying up new and rehabbed homes?
Sure. So the properties that we own, we are selling to owner occupiers primarily. And one of the ways we're able to do that is because our financing deal only applies to owner occupiers. And there's a deed restriction that you actually have to live in the house for a certain period of time. So in order to access this deal that we're offering, you have to be willing as an owner occupier to live in a house. This deal with, I mean, this house without this deal in general is not that attractive to investors.
As you think about the work that you've experienced bringing this project to life, what was the biggest surprise that you didn't anticipate, good or bad?
Um, I think that the early discussion about gentrification um, is such an emotional issue for people that even when you speak to them in terms of the logic, which I've laid out clearly, I think, you still have people just because of some historical injustices who really misunderstand what it is and they misunderstand where we are. You often have gentrification in Boston or New York or California, but this isn't that. But because people are so emotionally invested in it, I was surprised on how difficult it would be to get them to understand their position and the consequence of that argument and that approach for the long term.
So there's been some billboards around town, but what other ways might you be getting the word out about what the project is and how everyday Cleveland, Northeast Ohio residents can become engaged?
That's a challenge. That's probably the biggest challenge that we have. And it's one of the reasons that I invite everybody to come visit. What's challenging about this project is when people go and see the project, they are in disbelief because they don't know how nice it is until you visit. The issue that we have is that East Cleveland has a poor reputation that we have to overcome. So we have to use grassroots tactics to get people to the house. For example, when I get potential mentees or people are calling me to talk about development, instead of meeting at my office, I have them meet me in East Cleveland now. So we just had a ribbon cutting 2 weeks ago. On Sunday, I took the principal of Shaw High School in my car on a personal tour. This is hand-to-hand combat because most people who are looking for a house, if their real estate agent says, "Hey, I have a house for you. It costs $400,000. It's on an MLS and it's in East Cleveland," there's no more conversation. So what our strategy is to get people to, one, create awareness, move that awareness to curiosity, and then hopefully we can convert that to a visit. And then potentially we can talk about sales.
Dennis, what excites you most about the work you're doing in the Circle East project?
Hoping that we can pull it off. When I drive up that street, I remember how the street looked years ago. And there is a certain fulfillment, in your career when you can just drive and you can see something that you were central in creating. And it's just creating, better living for people. I live in a nice house and I think people deserve to live in a nice house, but they have to be given the opportunity and the tools. And it comes with certain risk and it comes with a certain investment. And that's the thing that I think governments, intermediaries, philanthropy, we have to decide, are we going to take the necessary risk to make it happen? And I think that's the only way cities like East Cleveland will recover. They've been disinvested for years. And if they've been disinvested for years, the only way to make them come back, we have to be willing and committed to engage in that same investment for, in many cases, the same number of years. And that's a challenge.
Well, Dennis, we thank you and your team and all of your partners for taking the risk and creating such an exciting new development in a community that is so worthy of that type of development. So thank you for joining us today and sharing all of your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.